Ready to go. Picks and bans for game number 2 as Allegiance look to put themselves on the board and not start in the hole here, giving Luminosity 3 points to start off this short summer split. Team Allegiance is in that first pick position, and they're going to ban away the Osiris right away. Picked it for CycloneSpin last game. It did well in the early game, and he took a lot of cooldowns in the late game, but didn't really have that same effectiveness that he probably wanted.
And if you're going to first pick Osiris and you execute a strategy to be that aggressive in the solo lane, why not keep extending it in the solo lane? You know, look for those invades. Why are you going for these gold furies whenever it's still a 5-on-5 before you find the picks? And Allegiance needs to be able to clean up these small little mid-game objectives to translate off of their early game leads.
Terra going to be taken away from JeffHindla, played it beautifully in the last game. I don't even know if he used his own purification beads in that one. I mean, he got them, but I think that was just enough to make Allegiance not want to focus him out. But that leaves open Bellona here for Luminosity. And this Camazotz that was banned away in game 1, Allegiance and Luminosity clearly, Luminosity's clearly been working on this in the background. Probably in the jungle with that Bellona, you'd expect that's going to be going to Mask.
Maybe Luminosity and Monkey Madness are scrim partners, recognizing just how effective Camazotz could be in that jungle role. Homie FA playing that god earlier on today, but to respond, Serqet still being locked in for week, and Allegiance recognizing just how powerful Terra was for JeffHindla, wanting that for themselves, and the Hercules here to counteract the Bellona.
But again, these are 3 gods that get shut down pretty hard by a Cupid.
Still a 5-on-5 before you find the picks. And Allegiance needs to be able to clean up these small little mid-game objectives to translate off of their early game leads.
Terra going to be taken away from JeffHindla, played it beautifully in the last game. I don't even know if he used his own purification beads in that one. I mean, he got them, but I think that was just enough to make Allegiance not want to focus him out. But that leaves open Bellona here for Luminosity. And this Camazotz that was banned away in game 1, Allegiance and Luminosity clearly, Luminosity's clearly been working on this in the background. Probably in the jungle with that Bellona, you'd expect that's going to be going to Mask.
Maybe Luminosity and Monkey Madness are scrim partners, recognizing just how effective Camazotz could be in that jungle role. Homie FA playing that god earlier on today, but to respond, Serqet still being locked in for week, and Allegiance recognizing just how powerful Terra was for JeffHindla, wanting that for themselves, and the Hercules here to counteract the Bellona.
But again, these are 3 gods that get shut down pretty hard by a Cupid ultimate. BaRRaCCuDDa played it beautifully in game 1, and Luminosity don't allow it to get banned away in here in game 2, selecting it before that second ban phase. Medusa going to be the ban for Luminosity, one of Ocean's signature characters, and immediately Allegiance turned towards the support, banning away the Khepri.
I like these bans from Luminosity, the Medusa and the Hui. These are 2 great team fighting hunters with their ultimates between the Petrify and the Suns. Very comfortable as Luminosity to try to allow the ROM selection. Does do a great job in the 1v1 boxing once that steroid is maxed out, but teamfight presence alone, you're looking to just use your ultimate from a distance off of the initiation from Serqet.
Geb going to be the pick there for JeffHindla. Now Allegiance, they've got to worry about who's going mid and who's going to the hunter role. Cernunnos left open despite all these bans. Pretty good hunter with a team fighting ultimate here for Oceans, left open, and he's going to take it. And it's going to be the Isis. So we saw Sheikah play this earlier on today, had some success early, not so much in the mid to late. Kind of like what Allegiance just did, though. Allegiance, I mean, that game was close even past the 25-minute mark.
Sure, and this is another great early game potential presence from Allegiance, but instead of probably going in that solo lane with the Serqet Osiris compared to first game, it's probably going to be the Serqet Isis focus for Allegiance in the second game.
Well, with Baskin going that late game, Scylla again trying to be that carry that Luminosity wants him to be in that mid lane. Let's get right into it. Game number 2 between Luminosity and Team Allegiance as ALG look to even up the series and find the split here in our final set of the day. And I don't know, why are we seeing Camazotz now, Toli? What has changed with this character? Because he went from picked all the time in solo to not picked at all to now being played, twice in 4 sets today.
I think it's just his passive, honestly. With how much action there's been in the first game from Allegiance and Luminosity, there's going to be so many puddles on the ground to be able to sustain Mask in that jungle. You can easily get a lot of health return, come back into a team fight 5 to 10 seconds later, either by clearing a jungle camp with Bombus Mask or by sitting in a puddle that somebody left after they died earlier on.
Quite a bit of early game pressure on the right-hand side of the map from Luminosity's early draft. Though CycloneSpin playing this Hercules can make life difficult for Scary on that bludgeon. Interested to see exactly what Scary's going to level. Like the decision there from Cyclone to get the 2 to group it up, but now Weaken's in a lot of trouble, forced into the Purification Beads to get away from the slow from Mask. It's going to be LG who get the better end of that clear. Shouts to double cleave auto attack characters between the Camazotz and the Bellona.
Absolutely. This time, Allegiance not getting the better end of it in that solo lane, but Baskin keeping Metyankey off of the speed buff. As a result, though, he's only level 1. Not something you necessarily want to be in a position for as a Scylla that's trying to get to the late game as soon as possible.
I like that decision from Metyankey to clear the wave all by himself, understanding how much more pressure he has in mid, and then just goes and takes the minis off of the enemy speed buff to make sure that he hits level 2 as quickly as possible. Weaken and CycloneSpin more worried about the fire elementals than Weaken's own speed buff. Now CycloneSpin knows this is happening, but buff already low enough, and that's going to go down. Cyclone in some trouble here, Toli. Mask hits the slow, and it's going to allow him to catch up. Level 3, bludgeon isn't even needed, and Mask going to claim the first blood onto CycloneSpin. Baskin forcing the Purification Beads in the mid lane, because Weaken went there and put some pressure onto him, but still, LG end up the victors in that little skirmish.
There's always a ripple effect. Despite getting a slight advantage in that solo lane, they're struggling behind slightly in the mid lane. Luminosity, Baskin having to use those Purification Beats just to stay alive in a 1v2 situation, but as a former solo laner for Baskin, he's not very unfamiliar being left alone. So he's trying to just survive as long as possible. And he's been making a great transition to go from these tanky warriors slash guardians to these more glass cannon squishy mages.
Mask in trouble in the mid lane. The beads are good for the moment, but I don't think it's going to be enough, and it will not. That wing gust from Metyankey secures the first kill for Allegiance. Good silence there out of Metyankey. It immediately turns it around onto Baskin, who doesn't have the Purification Beads. Scary D in the middle of 3. CycloneSpin only level 3 as Weaken goes forward, finds the taunt onto Baskin, but doesn't have enough for the Deathbane, so Baskin to be able to get out A-OK. Allegiance there a little bit more fight-minded than objective-minded, and that's been the difference in this set thus far for me, is that LG always has their minds on why are we fighting here, what are we going to get for it afterwards, whereas ALG is the typical we're just fighting because you're in front of us and we don't like that about you.
The problem with Camazotz in the jungle, which is why we saw Mass die earlier on, was the jump is just so short. It's not an actual escape. It's more of a small immunity frame usage to be able to avoid 1 or 2 abilities, potentially get the sustain off of landing on several targets. And up until Mask hits level 5 on his Camazotz, that's going to be his one true escape, being able to just swoop on in or out of danger.
Doesn't have boots 3 quite yet. Only boots 2 after falling there. NeiruMah gets both mid camps away from Mask. Good play there out of the support, denying the jungler any additional farm. We can still only level 4. Again, going back to that extended engagement by the enemy speed slash blue. That's a lot of time that's spent not worrying about your own wave and trying to get kills, and that's why we see Weaken still sitting at level 4.
It could easily transition into that mid game, which is why we can struggle sometimes at those phases. And I loved what NeiruMah did around that corner, trying to strip away some of these jungle camps from Mask. Now, had the Terra player showed himself instantly, then Mask would hold on to his abilities for the secure, but instead, not seeing anybody right off the bat, he invests his abilities towards that camp, which gives the secure option for NeiruMah.
NeiruMah and Oceans on this left-hand side, the new duo lane for Allegiance, and NeiruMah is a guy that I think really came out of nowhere for a lot of viewers and really impressed many at the Masters LAN. So Weaken gets zoned away from the solo wave by CycloneSpin, courtesy of that excavate. But NeiruMah is a guy who's been around the Challenger Cup scene for a long time, and if you're not super in tune with that scene, you may not know his name. But he certainly elevated his play past that. Even those that are familiar with him are used to seeing from him. And I'm really excited to seeing what he can do here in the Pro League on a different roster than that, Scylla, Kiki, Oxygen Supremacy lineup.
Going off into a huge Terra 7-2 run at that Gauntlet LAN, making huge splash effect in against a lot of these SPL teams. They actually shut down Allegiance 0-2. That was the third opponent that they had to face, and before that was Noble Esports that they took out 2-0, Flashpoint 2-0, even taking a game away from Memory of Gabe.
That's right. Yeah, Allegiance was one of the teams that fell to that run by Oxygen Supremacy. Oracle's going to be split Allegiance got one before they realized they had to run away from the 4-man grouping coming out of Luminosity. This team composition for Allegiance, do you think it translates as well as Luminosity's does into the late game?
I think Allegiance's team composition in the late game is not enough compared to Luminosity. You having Baskin play the Scylla. If he finds one execute on the Alma Monster, that's just going to be a guaranteed team fight win in Luminosity's favor. Not to mention this Isis here could potentially be a very easy target. If we're looking at some of the peel engagements here, you're relying on probably NeiruMah to stay in that backline, because knowing CycloneSpin and Weaken, they want to be the ones to aggress in the enemy backline.
Always. That's exactly what they like to do and why they've worked so well together for so long, as they have similar play styles come that team fighting phase. And the fact that Weaken likes to spend a lot of time with Cyclone in the laning phase as well on that right side of the map. But for now, Weaken's on the left, trying to secure these left side mid-harpies, as NeiruMah did last time they spawned over top of Mask. Jeff gonna walk in and eat that stun coming out of the Terra, and NeiruMah just laying down that obelisk as a zoning mechanism to ensure those mid camps go Allegiance's way.
Playing very safe. Luminosity not wanting to get into a team fight quite yet, despite probably having more control in that small little space with the Cataclysm. You're having the Crush coming out of Scylla. The damage potential just to maybe even blow up Terra could be there, and that could have found an execute reset onto Baskin's Alma Monster, but playing very safe. They're not going to take that risk over a very small amount of gold.
So last time we saw Geb today, it was played by Trixtank, and he basically won his team the game with his Blink Cataclysms. Sure. This time around, we see JeffHindla go for Shell instead of the Blink. How much harder is it to find the initiations as Geb without that Blink?
I mean, we saw it right there. He was zoned away by the wall. If that was Trixtank, he would just blink right onto those 3 players unexpectedly, no care in the world. And it's a different mindset between Trixtank and JeffHindla. We're seeing the low-nose mask as well from Jeff, but not going to invest into the Traveler shoes, getting more defenses with those reinforced Greaves instead.
Good poke on the Metyankey. That's what Camazotz does best. Just walks into your lane, throws the 1, throws the 2, walks away. That's the entire character.
There goes half of your health if you're at mid-mage, maybe even more depending on what level that Camazotz is and how itemized he is in the game. ScaryD looking to invade the blue buff on the right-hand side and successfully does so. CycloneSpin not getting the better end of this trade.
Scary was definitely kept down in game number 1. Took an early 3 deaths, had a lot of trouble during that laning phase. This time is basically the exact opposite. He's the one in control on this side, making CycloneSpin tank up all those minions, but knows he doesn't have a whole lot of kill potential, at least not yet. So he uses the ultimate, gets Cyclone low, but not low enough, but that will force Cyclone to use his teleport to get back to lane in time. I love this play by Scary. He's actually holding Cyclone in lane there, making it so that he can't back, so that he can't teleport back in time to defend that speed buff invade that went successfully Luminosity's way. Decent damage on a Metyankey, but he returns some of it on his own. Weaken gonna jump in, but Baskin jumps out in response, and Metyankey's the one holding all that damage without a lot of recourse.
Baskin is just so aware of his surroundings every single time. Not only was he poking out Metyankey so heavily, he also managed to barely escape from the initiation from Weaken on the Serqet, just all over the place. One of the highest mechanically gifted players, I would say, and a lot of players in the SPL have been giving this player a lot of praise since he joined up former Cloud9.
That's right. I mean, this is a kid who basically stormed onto the scene, came out of nowhere, didn't play in the SPL Season 1, joined Season 2 with Denial, and then all of a sudden, a couple months later, he's on the defending world champions team, replacing Omega, and his the hype around him has never stopped ever since, basically. Baskin has to use his purification beads, as JeffHindla had him with the shield, but I don't know if Baskin knew he was ready for it. Nice jump there by Mask. As you mentioned, using that leap, not necessarily as an escape, but as a disjoint to get away from that driving strike coming out of CycloneSpin.
CycloneSpin taking a lot of damage. Not something you want to do when your teleport's on cooldown and your opponent's isn't, but Gold Fury being started by Allegiance. They pop the girdle, they pop the Circle of Protection.
Frenzy's used, and that's going to go the way of Allegiance. JeffHindla's low, but a big ultimate out of BaRRaCCuDDa forces everybody back. Barra trusted his team was going to pick up NeiruMah, but I don't know if they will cancel that. Baskin does. 2 kills now for Luminosity. Scary teleported into the back and got out the purification from Oceans there, but The objective goes Allegiance's way. Good objective secure by Metyankey.
And the timing of this allows Luminosity to transfer all their attention towards this Portal Demon. The Gold Fear going down shortly before the 10-minute mark. Spirit Ball from a distance, not able to secure it. ScaryD trying to dive that tier 1 mid tower. Eagles Rally not available, so he can't find the kill. But despite not finding the kill, Metyankey's going to have to back in because ALG gets the Gold Fury, but they lose NeiruMah. They get weakened very low, and he had to back. Oceans had to back as well, and they missed out on a lot of farm.
I loved that. That was basically a game of chicken around that Gold Fury. Metyankey holding the Circle of Protection, Baskin holding the I'm a Monster. Got to give credits to Allegiance's mid laner, as well as JeffHindla. Not many people will just roll out into a fully charged Ice Assault. That's a JeffHindla move right there, and Allegiance make good on their objective secure, but LG get the kill and the Portal Demon afterwards to make sure that gold lead doesn't start to swing too heavily in Allegiance's favor.
ScaryD still invading that blue buff on the right-hand side for the second time that we've seen recently, but now NeiruMah is in position, forced to use Eagles Rally, but everyone else from Luminosity was right around the corner. Maybe a little too preemptive, worried the fact that it was not only NeiruMah there, but potentially weakened around the corner as well.
And there isn't any CDR on that Runeforged Hammer, so normally we see Bellonas use their ultimate pretty freely because they get a Breastplate of Valor and they're not really worried about it, but with Runeforged, it means that cooldown is going to be a little bit longer, an offensive option coming out of ScaryD. BaRRaCCuDDa pushed back a little bit on this left-hand side, but has those hearts, as you mentioned, so not too impactful, this poke put into him by Oceans.
BaRRaCCuDDa is one of these players that's been going through a lot of different phases in his SPL history. He's been known to be a relatively passive player, and then Season 3, he turned it up and be very aggressive.
Oceans is in trouble, doesn't have any purification beads, as now he's on the run. Mask chasing him down, but he doesn't quite find the kill. The Terra's Blessing gives Oceans the heal that saves his life. Metyankey trying to handle ScaryD in the mid lane. Might actually turn it around on him. One more's gonna do it. The auto attack will help it out, and the archers, but now he's in trouble. Jukes the I'm a Monster, and Baskin's picked up and pulled back, but the crush is on the mark. Baskin does make Metyankey pay for knocking down the LG solo laner. 1 for 1 in favor of who, Tolly?
Honestly, neither. They're both the same exact respawn timer here as Metyankey's coming back for ScaryD, forced to go into the purification beads. Baskin having to use that one. I'm a Monster was slightly off the mark, and if that one hit and reset, then that could have easily been Luminosity's favor to not only go for a 1 for 1, but they would have gotten more than just that one specific kill. ScaryD also didn't have his ultimate available at the time that he started engaging against Metyankey in that mid lane. A little lapse of judgment, not truly respecting the damage potential from this Isis.
Yeah, Met's gone for that Bancroft's Talon once more, and once Met got low there from ScaryD, it was just adding to the power that his Wing Gust was putting into Scary. Scary may lose his tower here, but the Disarm's gonna save it for the moment. But that tower is basically gone as soon as CycloneSpin decides he wants it gone.
Still getting his own blue buff, electing to try to get that more farm instead of keeping his tower alive. Could potentially cost him later down the road, but instead still finding ways to extend his advantage. He's going to hit level 14 first. He's still doing a good job extending that one death out of CycloneSpin by diving that tier 1 tower, constantly looking for trades because that bludgeon will outweigh 1 to 2 tower shots at this point.
BaRRaCCuDDa again going for the Fatalis, third item, sitting on that second tier because it takes just so long now to finish off that item, and really valuing that mobility that item brings to him.
Absolutely. Still more aggression, though, from ScaryD. He's just unrelenting in the solo lane. Finally, NeiruMah and Weaken. Not only those two, but Metyankey making the rotation. They're tired of ScaryD's shenanigans, stripping away so many blue buffs from CycloneSpin.
This game, for me, and this set in general, has been... I've been very impressed with Baskin's play. And I think that's key to Luminosity's success moving forward, not only in the summer split, but in Season 4 in general, as Mask forced to use his ultimate courtesy of the CC chain coming out of NeiruMah. But Baskin, during the spring split, looked very good at times. It was almost always on Poseidon. A little bit of Thoth sprinkled in there as well, even a Ra from time to time, if I remember correctly. But I think it's very important that Baskin expands his god pool during the summer split and shows that he can be a top-tier mid laner as he finds the route onto NeiruMah. JeffHindla tossed back, courtesy of that last breath. BaRRaCCuDDa's made the rotation, forces the purification beads out from Weaken, and Luminosity happy to reset after that one. Got a couple sets of, we got one set of Purification Beads out of Weaken, but a couple ultimates from the side of Allegiance. But it's ALG, the ones who want to aggress here onto the Gold Fury because of how low JeffHindla is. And Metyankey having that ultimate still ready to go and secure, but ScaryD comes around the back. Frenzy popped as the Gold Fury gets even lower. Baskin's gonna get the reset with the I'm a Monster. Allegiance get the Gold Fury, but now LG's trying to take the fight. CycloneSpin used the Aegis there, I believe, to get him out of danger from that I'm a Monster, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Driving Strike creates some distance, and he's gonna be able to get out of there as LG get one kill, but again, lose the Gold Fury.
But this time, the respawn timer's a little longer, and without Weaken for another 12 seconds, it's going to be Luminosity grouped up. The teleport, though, from CycloneSpin does take into effect, allowing the safety of that Tier 1 dueling tower, but Tier 1 mid could be a different option, but instead going for the Portal Demon, trying to capitalize on that 750 gold.
Only Metyankey is even close to this Portal Demon for the time being, but I don't know if Luminosity know that. They do have some wards on that bottom right-hand side and right on top of that speed buff. Weaken just farming up those back Harpies. Metyankey, yeah, the only one who even has a chance of getting here in time. CycloneSpin has teleported in, but it's still not going to be enough as Luminosity, again, Allegiance get the Gold Fury, Luminosity, they take the Portal Demon.
Keeping it very even and close. Luminosity, they're such a seasoned veteran team that they know what they can't do necessarily, and off of that, they always know the small loopholes created by the enemy team. Masto caught in a very bad spot, having to get retreated on the shield, though, from JeffHindla, keeping his jungler alive.
BaRRa and Baskin pop out of the portal and drop the ultimate onto Weaken there, who didn't have his Purification Beads. BaRRa a little late with his own, and now he's in some trouble. Cyclone chasing him down. ScaryD is here, finds two with that Eagles rally, and BaRRa's still alive thanks to Jeff's Geb shield. Scary still in that front line, but gets shredded pretty heavily from the damage from Metyankey. Mask has returned, no ultimate available to him. He used it to get out of danger last time around, but Baskin is on the offensive. Can't find the root nor the crush, but Baskin has an I'm a Monster available if he wants to try and chase this down. CycloneSpin's so healthy, though, that's enough front line to keep Luminosity at bay.
Utilizing that Monolith for that extra sustain. Unfortunately, Baskin did miss those two abilities, which would have been key towards keeping NeiruMah crippled and guaranteeing a lot of additional damage. That Crush, once it's maxed out, negates a lot of protection, so the further up damage would have just amplified by everybody else. Luminosity, they still get a better end of trade there. The shields from JeffHindla was clutch there. Not only did he save Mask's life there, which also bought time for everyone else from Luminosity to take that portal to find the cleanup kill, but he keeps his Hunter alive at the end of that engagement.
Mask has to use his Blink to get away from Weaken. Weaken has not gone for Blink. He instead has gone for Sunder. Last time Mask went for Sunder, and I believe Weaken went for Blink.
That's true.
So a little bit of a switch up there between the two junglers. Mask did go for the Shifter Shield. Seems to be a fan of that item after receiving its recent buffs. Now it's there's a little bit less base stat on the item, but you get more benefit for being healthy and more protection for being weak instead of just having a little bit of everything all the time.
And which is why we're seeing probably Camazotz played a little bit more frequently. The scaling off of the poke damage just is augmented with this new addition towards Shifter Shield, getting that 70 physical power instead of that 60, gets you more poke potentially, getting more kills.
But you don't have a lot of penetration if you go for that Shifter Shield second item, and that's where Mask is headed next, building into that heavy mace tree. Weaken went for penetration right off the bat with the Jotun's Wrath once more, and just like he did in the last game, it looks like it's going to be a Runeforged Hammer right after that. So the right side mid Harpies are started up by Luminosity. Baskin put a little bit of poke, but Weaken's on the left-hand side and catches BaRRaCCuDDa's dash. Ocean's gonna put himself on the board. Big play there out of the jungler, sets that up for his Hunter.
Great timing from Weaken to gank, just barely able to avoid that one little ward right above the Gold Fury. The positioning and the path taken by this jungler, so fruitful here, because this one respawn for 30 more seconds allows Allegiance to group up in the duel lane, and they might even go for tier 2 after this one.
Metyankey's here, as is NeiruMah. The rest of Luminosity makes their way towards that tier 2 tower. ScaryD's got a choice to make, though, because he doesn't know if Cyclone's gonna be pushing that solo side simultaneously with Allegiance on the left-hand side. A stun there from NeiruMah onto JeffHindla. His Mask jumps out of the way of that Spirit Ball. But Allegiance decide they don't want to take that tier 2 tower, a little bit too risky. Instead, head towards the Gold Fury, which is due to respawn in 20 seconds.
It was all a diversion because we saw CycloneSpin stripping away that speed buff. Now Mask is going to be less mobile for this upcoming Gold Fury attempt. Still, CycloneSpin looking like he's chilling in the jungle. I thought he was going to go for the blue buff afterwards, but instead trying to just retreat and get ready for this gold.
Taunt on the JeffHindla, followed up by the Spirit Ball. Mask on that front side, trying to put some poke, and scaryD's looking to engage. Can't find a home with that Eagles rally as Mask sustains up, courtesy of the hearts from BaRRaCCuDDa. Baskin puts a good chunk of damage on the weaken, but is returned by the Spirit Ball from Metyankey. Cyclone's been teleported around the back and is trying to focus down BaRRaCCuDDa. Mask used that ultimate very early, tried to get out of the way of that Earthbreaker, but I don't think that was going to hit him either way.
Either way, the Purification Beads was up for Mask, so even if you do get pulled, you can use Purification Beads to prevent the push. Circle of Protection being used. Third Gold Fury going the way of Allegiance.
And again, the Frenzy Circle of Protection is just too much. Big ultimate out of Oceans, catches 4 members, but Mask hits the Sunder, going deep. The I'm a Monster just barely misses on a Metyankey, who turns it around. scaryD's going to finally knock him down, and he's still trying to chase down Oceans, but a good stun from NeiruMah stops the aggression for the time being. The rest of Luminosity is all trying to handle CycloneSpin, and they're not doing a good job of it. He's still going in. Scary finally finds Oceans, but Cyclone has been handling everybody else. Scary still fighting. That taunt's gonna do it as Weekend answers back.
It's just a tale of the soul laners being so obnoxious, diving in the backline. Baskin doing a great job, juking out that driving strike. CycloneSpin now in a lot of trouble, does have that Aegis Amulet available. CycloneSpin such a smart player, picking up this relic, recognizing that late, no matter how defensively you build against a Scylla in the late game, if you get hit by that Crush I'm a Monster, you will die.
So he picks up the defensive relic, and then that allows him to build a little bit more offensively with that Shield of Regrowth. Give him some more CDR and give him that movement speed. Saw how well he could kite in that little corridor, even against BaRRaCCuDDa and Baskin, using that extra mobility whenever he pops that mitigate wounds.
Patience from Weekend in that team fight. He jumped over into that Gold Fury pit, diving that backline, using the Sunder, getting BaRRaCCuDDa out of that team fight very quickly and early on, allowing the rest of his teammates to really get a slight edge there. But scaryD diving the backline as well was just so dominant, despite, I would say, his lackluster performance this entire game. You know, baiting himself out in that melee into dying towards Metyankey, missing out some Eagles rallies, unfortunately. He needs to make a bigger presence in this game.
Cyclone gonna eat some damage between Baskin and Mask, but nothing that mitigate wounds can't handle. You're right, scaryD has not looked particularly clean this game, but still sitting at 2-2-2, has got a lot of HP online now between the Runeforged Pestilence and Wingblade. Can certainly make it difficult for Metyankey to survive in these team fights. So NeiruMah eats a Root Crush combination. Cyclone's still in the front line here. No one from Luminosity seems to really want to deal with him, despite the Pestilence out of scaryD and that Brawler's Beat Stick from Mask. Still don't feel confident. Blink from Mask onto Weekend to force him out of the engagement initially. CycloneSpin tried to use that driving strike but couldn't find a home with it. Oceans is safe to just throw out auto attacks for the time being until scaryD looks for him with that Eagles Rally and Sunder combination. Oceans has to worry about that Fields of Love. He's gonna get mezzed out, but a good circle of protection is there. I'm a Monster doesn't get the reset but allows Mask to pick up NeiruMah. Mask trying to handle Metyankey, and scaryD does the same to Oceans, but now it's Oceans and CycloneSpin trying to turn it around.
The shields from JeffHindla keeping Baskin alive from Weekend's ultimate. JeffHindla gets pulled and pushed into danger. Spirit Ball Wingus secures the kill. 1-for-1 thus far. Make that 3-for-1.
Weekend in the backside cleans up 2, and now Luminosity only have 2 members left, and they have to run away. The Portal Demon is done all in favor of Allegiance. What a play out of the jungler for Allegiance, cleaning up at the end of that team fight.
A great moment of brilliance coming out of Weekend. I was talking about his patience earlier on, still lingering around these corners, waiting for more opportunities, and not even done yet. Just poking out scaryD before his team goes for this Fire Giant.
And Metyankey just now has that circle of protection. Frenzy isn't up for NeiruMah quite yet, but it's not gonna matter. Game 1, Allegiance was fighting when they didn't necessarily need to fight. They weren't getting the objectives whenever they were fighting. This game has been the complete opposite. Luminosity has still been looking for the objectives. They've still been trying to get Portal Demons whenever Allegiance does Gold Furies, but The last part of that's important is after Allegiance does the Gold Furies, I love this draft to just pick up the Frenzy, pick the Isis, and say, yeah, we're doing Gold Furies. Come and stop us. You can't. We've got too much damage and too much secure between the Frenzy and the Circle of Protection.
And there's also just too much control here between the Serqet, the Isis, and the Hercules. Not to mention you have a Terra to be able to root you, to be able to stun you out. I love the composition from Allegiance just being well-oiled machine.
Cyclone, first one in underneath that tier 2 tower. Good damage onto ScaryD off the stun from NeiruMah. But Weekend's gonna take a lot of damage as well, and he's just gonna pop. BaRRaCCuDDa is the one with the kill, and that gives Luminosity the confidence they need. 3-man Cataclysm coming out of JeffHindla. NeiruMah secured. The Wild Hunt comes through and turns 4 members into pigs, but not Baskin. He's still there, and he knocks down NeiruMah. Now ScaryD doesn't give a damn about the tower, just keeps on going. Oceans makes him pay, but it's only Oceans and CycloneSpin. And I don't know how much longer we'll be able to say Oceans is here. Good damage onto Baskin and onto Mask, and Ocean's actually gonna turn it around onto Mask. The shield actually may save Baskin in that scenario. Finally, someone kills Oceans. But Luminosity turn it around.
CycloneSpin. CycloneSpin is pushing the right-hand side. He's trying to get the Phoenix while the rest of Luminosity is going to go for the mid here. Can the damage from the Hercules? No, the enhance is not going to be enough. Baskin, being a smart player as he is, making this rotation to save his right side Phoenix.
Brutal right now if you're a Luminosity fan, as Weekend now might actually fall, stunned out, forcing the Purification Beads, and BaRRa is just going to be able to dash away. Weekend does so much for Allegiance. He has a great early game in game 1. They end up not winning that game, but this game gets turned on its head because of a great play out of Weekend to find the double kill, allow Allegiance to get a free Fire Giant. And then he just takes one step too far forward. Baskin makes the play. He hits the root. BaRRa's right there with the setup, and that's the first domino that falls that allows Luminosity to push down, not only defend their tier 2, but get the tier 1 mid tower, get the tier 2 mid tower, and get the mid Phoenix on top of 4 kills totally.
And it was just a small lapse of judgment from Weekend. He had the Purification Beads available before he died. He didn't truly respect the control or the poke damage that Luminosity had available to them. Obviously, Mask can fire off abilities from a distance. Baskin can cripple you. JeffHindla can knock you up, and that small little air hang time from the knockup is enough to guarantee more than 50% of your health pool if you're a squishy assassins such as Weekend Serqet.
Allegiance are still in the lead though, totally. They're still up about 5,000 gold, about 5,000 experience. They've gotten 4 Gold Furies this game and the Fire Giant. So they still have that objective control. Mask is, still far behind Weekend in terms of levels, I believe. Yeah, still down 2 levels. But Baskin almost has Rod of Tahuti. Baskin is almost level 20. And that's when things start to get really scary.
Very scary. Late game Scylla. This is going to be very detrimental towards the positioning of Allegiance to make sure they're not all grouped up for the roots, the crushes, or the Yama monsters. Nobody wants to be anywhere near those abilities once they start flying out.
Look at this build coming out of Oceans. He went for the Rage, the typical Rage, Boots, Ichabal, Xe, Rage. Then he sold Bluestone and got Poison Star, an item that we haven't seen since the first few weeks of Season 4 when everyone was building it. And now he's going for that Fatalis, that Poison Star, crit chance of course, but whenever he crits someone, they're gonna be slowed and deal less damage for a little bit after that.
Even augmenting that with the Fatalis. Now, inside the Cernunnos kit, nice little stun from Metyankey on the Spirit Ball. No follow from CycloneSpin quite yet. Still looking for those pull pushes. Gonna absorb a lot of abilities from a distance, and this is all this game is about, poking everyone out from a distance.
Look at the crits coming through on that Portal Demon, already falling low, but JeffHindla is in position. Cyclone down to about 2/3 HP, but that's still plenty for a Hercules. Blinking by Mask, but a Spectral Armor fears him away. Boulder comes out from CycloneSpin, but it's not enough to knock anybody down. Portal Demon once again pulled by Allegiance, but it's just for a little bit of lifesteal off of Ocean's first ability. CycloneSpin has to retreat after a big crush coming out of Baskin, and again, Allegiance start to look towards the objective.
3 ultimates used on the side of Luminosity. Only 2 for Allegiance, Circle Protection and I'm a Monster. These are your 2 abilities that you're looking for in this next next little engagement as Luminosity looking to get this Portal Demon.
NeiruMah gonna find multiple with that root, but the Portal Demon secured by Allegiance. They did have to use that Circle of Protection, and Baskin finds the reset with I'm a Monster. Can't find the second one as Weekend uses that Deathbane to get away. So Luminosity pick off the support player for Team Allegiance. So we do have a quick pause here, but it's Allegiance who get the Portal Demon.
That's right. There's 40 seconds remaining for NeiruMah to respawn. And this next upcoming Fire Giant is going to be the main focus for Luminosity. And the key factor here, despite all the Gold Furies, despite the Portal Demon and the earlier Fire Giant by Allegiance, the Phoenix. The first Phoenix of the game did fall as Luminosity secured their middle one, and there's more fire minion waves flooding down there. So ALG have to respect that, giving up more control towards Luminosity to get that Fire Giant for free.
Yeah, Baskin was able to find the reset in that last fight, but he's been on point with the initial I'm a Monsters, but hasn't really found a whole lot on the follow-up. And that's basically, if he is, that's all it's going to take for Luminosity to march down and knock down that middle Phoenix. We're in a quick pause between ALG and LG. We're 30+ minutes in. It's been a very tight set so far. And the objective control from ALG has just been phenomenal. I mean, multiple Portal Demons, the Fire Giant, 4 Gold Furies as well?
Yes.
Luminosity's been team fighting. You can make the argument a little bit better than Team Allegiance overall, but the objective control certainly has been going the way of Team Allegiance. But Luminosity, with NeiruMah down, decided to start up the Fire Giant. JeffHindla controlled, and all ultimates are available now as Jeff in trouble on that right-hand side. CycloneSpin rooted in place, but a great Spirit Ball once more from Metyankey is going to force LG back.
Now Mask getting caught by the poisons from Weekend. This time it's going to be a 5-on-4 as NeiruMah has about to respawn here. The mid of Phoenix, surprisingly enough, still going to stand as CycloneSpin has made the rotation there. Not only that, there was a full fire minion wave under that Titan of Allegiance, chipping its health away by about 25%.
Fire Giant started here by Allegiance, only BaRRaCCuDDa for the time being. Scary D tried to teleport, but ALG killed the ward, and without that support or solo coming in to help, BaRRa can't really step up, can't lock down Weekend in that Fields of Love. That shouts to speed buff, and the Fire Giant goes down. All 5 members of Allegiance with that buff, the second of the game.
Everybody is praying to Weekend. Use your purification beads if you get stunned next siege. Don't put yourself out of position to get blown up. And as long as Weekend doesn't die the way he did that earlier engagement, ALG should be able to extend this goal lead that they have with their second Fire Giant and control some of their own Phoenixes.
Metyankey's the one with the spectral armor. We saw it earlier when Mask blinked in and immediately got feared away. I wasn't sure who picked it up, but it was Met. So a cheap physical protection item that's more about making sure he doesn't get bludgeoned, basically, doesn't get blinked on by Mask. But all it takes is one auto attack, basically, from BaRRaCCuDDa to pop that, and it's a very, very long cooldown.
That's true, but the chances of Metyankey being in position to get in-handed by BaRRaCCuDDa, as long as BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't flank unexpectedly from behind, Metyankey should always keep a long distance between himself and the opposing mid and hunter. Just focus his attention on the solo and the support, and that one brief second of the spectral armor against Mask or Scary D is going to allow Metyankey to start chain crowd controlling everybody with the stun, with the silence, and then you're going to have even more control from the rest of his teammates.
Metyankey's had a really strong game so far, totally. 4-3-2 may not blow you away in terms of stat lines, but his objective control has been phenomenal. In the poke, just the long-range Spirit Balls that we've seen from him time and time again, and it's always in the same spot. He's on the other side of that right mid-harpy wall around Portal Demon, just throwing those out, but the accuracy has been really solid.
And Isis is known for to be one of these early game gods, but the way Metyankey has played her now is not looking like that. The Spirit Balls definitely hurt, even with these physical defense items such as the Spectral Armor. You're looking to just stay alive and be more utility-based, stripping away some of the magical protections with your silence to augment the rest of your damage from the Spirit Ball and from the Wind Gust.
And now he's got that Rod of Tahuti and that Circle of Protection. While great for securing objectives, can also be great to be used in the middle of the team fight. And whenever you already have Fire Giant and you're starting the siege, you can be a little bit more loose with that Circle of Protection and use it to turn around a team fight. Ready to get back into game here after another pause from Team Allegiance, but we're 33 minutes in. Luminosity in the lead in kills, but not really anywhere else. Down in gold, down in experience. The only thing that's going for LG right now is that mid Phoenix is still weakened from that previous push.
Which could potentially leave a small hole for them to exploit later down the road. Maybe one of these players from Luminosity could actually ignore defending their towers or Phoenixes, loop around Allegiance and go for that middle Phoenix, despite not having any sort of backdoor protections or more minions rather to tank the Phoenix for them. Still, late game form, once you're level 20, no matter who you are, those in-hands are going to start chunking away at that Phoenix.
The problem is that even if Luminosity win a team fight and have the opportunity to go marching down that mid lane and knock down that Phoenix, they haven't taken down any side towers quite yet. So that Titan would be incredibly tanky, even 34 minutes in. Basically would need a near deicide in order to try and end the game in this position for Luminosity. But it's Allegiance who are on the front foot as they look to knock down the first LG Phoenix so far this game. Oceans and Metyankey trying to put some damage on a JeffHindla, but he dodges out those skills. Baskin has gone for a purple pot. See him glowing blue there. It's a little bit, spent that 500 gold. Kept the soul stone, has not started to work on his 6th item quite yet. But basically when you've got, you know, 5 items, one of them's Ratatouille, another one's Obsidian Shard, you're good on Scylla for the most part.
Pretty comfortable, especially once he hits level 20 to get that last stack of his passive, getting even additional magical power, trying to confirm some of these kills to find the reset. CycloneSpin for the 2nd time, trying to initiate around the Phoenix, and there goes the Terra's Blessing.
NeiruMah throws it out. Scary gonna take a lot of damage, but a good shield once more from JeffHindla. Frenzy's popping, a Cataclysm is good there. As Jeff gets very low, Oceans is gonna be able to find him. 2-man push from CycloneSpin, puts BaRRa in a bad spot, and Weekend's gonna make him pay. Baskin finds the reset. I'm a monster, but can't find the next one after Metyankey uses the Aegis. Oceans knocks down Baskin. Oceans knocks down Mask. Oceans has 7 kills. ALG have 15 in total, and they've only got 1 member to worry about as they push down LG's Titan. Allegiance looking for the split.
Great job by Team Allegiance being able to bounce back after that first game deficit. Oceans, though, might be in trouble. He gets bludgeoned by Scary D, but this Titan is extremely low. Just like that, Allegiance securing themselves that 1-game split.
15 to 15 in kills. Incredibly close, but that game, Allegiance owned the objectives, and that was the big difference maker. The team fight from Luminosity was fine. The team fight from ALG was fine. So when you see a 15 to 15 scoreline, what went differently? It was Allegiance getting, what, 5 Gold Furies, 2 Fire Giants, who knows how many Portal Demons. That's what it was all about.
And it was the second engagement, the second Fire Giant from Allegiance.
Yeah.
The changing turning point there, Beads was used.
Beads was used. What do you know? That helps out whenever you use your relics. We're getting ready to throw it to the desk here for Taco to break down what you saw all day long in the beginning day of the summer split.
Thanks so much, Aggro, and I will be joined yet again by FDOT for the final couple of sets from NA that we were able to witness. And that's not all the Smite action that we have going on today, though, guys. I know we saw some EU, we saw a little bit of NA as well, but back at home, you can make sure to keep the Smite games going by partying up with a friend or two and getting involved with the Party Up and Earn up to 3 times everything promos that we have going on for this weekend.
This is when I get the call from Kret. Please play with me. Please play with me, and I say, no, I will. All right, I say yes, and then I just spam Kuzenbo solo. But still, you know, I mean, you gotta do something.
You want all the favor and worship prayers and everything that you can harbor, because, I mean, you can never really go wrong whenever you have that much favor. I've made it a personal goal to try and hit 1 million like Maddie, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Oh, no, I think I'm up to like 700,000, but I don't know.
That's still respectable.
That's a lot of Smite, dog. It's a lot of Smite.
Speaking of a lot of Smite, we got to see a lot of Smite action today already. It's been a pretty exciting opening day for the SPL Summer Split. So let's take a look at the standings to see how these teams have fared out. As you guys are aware of, it is going to be Monkey Madness coming out with the clean 2-0 victory in their set earlier today. So they already established 3 points for themselves. And then Luminosity and ALG with the split. I think that's one that probably a lot of people weren't anticipating.
Yeah, I think ALG have definitely I think they've improved their roster personally. The split is there. Monkey Madness, you know, it's interesting. This team, known as Soar last split, I think a lot of people on paper expect them to do well. And then last split, we didn't really see that come out And then finally, here we actually saw them be the team that I think people expected last time around. Final K got sort of his time to practice out there in the previous split. Now everybody else really working together with him. I think the unit is just better in general.
It's evident that the experience has certainly helped them as far as developing further in the scene and being able to find more of a grasp of the overall game. And I mean, it was very clear with Monkeys in the first set that they were having an excellent time just working together as one whole unit, like you mentioned. It just didn't seem like they were having any issues whatsoever. And, I mean, I take that back, actually. They were having a little bit of difficulties, but Andister was rocking it.
Yeah, this was the change for me, was we have been critical of Andy, and that could have gone to Shake It if he had just done one or two things differently, but we've been critical of Andy's God Pool specifically, right? And we see, well, okay, you got a Ra and you got a Scylla. What else you got, dog? And not only does he bring out the Agni, which is not exactly numero uno in the meta right now, but he brings out the Agni and he does this just time and time again. I'm gonna dash into you and blow you up. Fantastic play, surprising fantastic play. 16.0 KDA on the two-headed monster. Love it.
I'm gonna be real though. This isn't a pick that like takes me by surprise. It's something that Andy would mess around with before and toy around with in ranked, and I saw him like he ran multiple ranked games playing this Agni, and it was pretty nutty.
Well, Handyman brought up a good point, was that back in the day with the 2-1-2 meta, Agni was frequently seen in lane, either as a support or a carry, really doing both sides of the coin there. So Agni, Andy's been playing for a long time. It's so surprised that he has this god in his god pool, but it certainly was a pleasant surprise to see him pull it out with such prowess. Because like I said, we've seen the Ra, and we've seen the Scylla, but now you're giving me Agni? He's cool. He's got two heads.
And like we mentioned, that's not the only surprise that happened here today. Luminosity versus ALG, I really don't think that many people were expecting Allegiance to fare as well as they did against a team as experienced and so established as Luminosity.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, Allegiance isn't a bad squad. People love to meme Weekend, but he's a really strong player, not always in his mechanics, but his decision-making and his leadership, I think, is very strong, and that goes unsung. A player like CycloneSpin doesn't stay on a team with a caustic individual. So, sure, I'm not in the team meetings, but I know just by seeing CycloneSpin still on that roster that Weekend isn't the guy that the public like to paint him as. Metyankey's still a little shaky for me, honestly, real talk, but I will never not love watching Oceans, and you bring my man NeiruMah into the picture. I think ALG are going to have a good year.
I think it was a really refreshing pace of game to watch both of those two teams really go at it. Luminosity taking the first win, and then Allegiance shortly answering back. I think it's always exciting whenever teams can find that comeback potential. But, I mean, that was only the start. You have to keep that in mind. These sets from EU and NA that we saw today, we saw 2 sets from EU, 2 sets from NA, guys, for those of you that have just now caught up. But it's not the only SPL Summer Split action that we have for you. This Saturday, we will return with more EU action, except this time it'll be all EU. You've got Dignitas, you've got Burrito, formerly known as Optimus Gang. And then, of course, so many fan favorites, Poppies, NRG, Rival, just a ton of teams I think people are really looking forward to.
Energy Rival and Obey Enix are the 2 matches that I really want to see. Energy Rival, 1, you're going to get the replay that we saw from LAN. 2, Energy sort of like the Energy and Rival have so many echoes amongst themselves in the sense that there's a lot of parallels between Rival and Energy, and that they're the one unit. They haven't really gone through too many roster changes, and Rival succeeding throughout the LANs. I think you can sort of say that Rival is Energy Junior to a certain extent. And are they going to be able to really step into those shoes is a different story. And then just to touch on Obey and Enix, Obey is the #1 team, and Enix are on the way. How close to #1 is Enix? We'll find out on Saturday. That's what I'm looking for, exactly.
Certainly a ton of competition on the side of Europe, and you guys at home will definitely be able to catch all of that action and find out who's going to start establishing themselves towards the top of the crop, and that'll be more at 12 p.m. Eastern Saturday. Make sure that you don't miss out, guys. And for now, that'll be all from us here today. So for everybody here, have a good night.
Peace.